decorations on a Christmas Eve. Baby, you better believe.
Music
Last Christmas was
and lyrics have always helped songwriter Christian Surpass process life's toughest moments.
I can write songs as long as I can breathe.
With his band Ghost Town, he's written countless tunes, but nothing quite like the song inspired by a family Skype interview with his brother-in-law, Scott Andres, who was serving overseas in Baghdad with the Louisiana National Guard during Christmas 2003.
I was really affected by us turning away from that screen and sitting down at a table where we were safe and we were all together, and he had to get up from his chair, and who knows what he was walking back into.
In this moment, Surpass's mind went to his sister-in-law without her husband.
And so I wrote the song from his point of view, as if he was singing to her, hey, I know this is rough, but this Christmas is our last Christmas apart. It'll be your last Christmas alone. The last Christmas was your last Christmas alone. I'll be here every year when it's cold.
I didn't want to cry.
And I swear.
This is Heather Andres, Scott Andres' wife. Don't worry, those are happy tears. That Christmas would be Scott's last Christmas away. And though today he travels for work, he was in London when we FaceTimed his wife, they use his time he served and the song as a lesson for their children.
For them to realize how lucky they are that he's only gone for a couple of days or a week or two, and he's here for the holidays. So my daughter will play it over and over again, and we'll be in bed and she'll just start singing it, and just makes me happy.
Surpass recorded the song back then, though it was largely unknown. But with a new release this Christmas, his hope is that last Christmas will impact others.
It's tough being lonely. It's tough missing someone and not knowing exactly what's going on. So hopefully it will maybe get some people to have a better understanding of what military families go through. With me so far away, baby, I'm home.
Paul Dudley, Eyewitness News.